This incident occurred in the Atlanta region in the mid-1960s when I was 8 or 9 years old. My father was a teacher in an Atlanta suburb that was somewhat distant from our home, so I rode with him every day. However, we had to get up very early every morning and leave before the sun rose. We also stopped several mornings a week to fill up at a small independent gas station. We were frequently the first car there soon after it opened. Back then, everything was full service. Little restrooms were located behind the pumps. There was a booth where an attendant would come out and fill your tank, wash your windows, etc. He would always have a lot of cash in his wallet and a gadget on his belt from which he counted out coins. We would frequently stop at the station in the mornings because it was a fairly long drive. One morning, we arrived before dawn and discovered that the station was completely empty. There was no sign of anyone present in the booth or anywhere else in the station. My father blew the car horn once, then again a few more times, but there was no response. We talked about what might be the issue. My father first suggested that perhaps the attendant might be in the bathroom. But when he still did not appear, my father said that maybe the attendant had experienced car trouble and had not been able to make it to work on time. We continued to wait for several minutes. No other cars pulled in. I told my father I needed to use the bathroom and put my hand on the car door handle to get out. But he told me that we could not wait any longer and I could use the bathroom at the next station we came to. So we left still wondering what happened. A day or two later, my father was reading the local newspaper when I heard a loud exclamation from him. He excitedly told my mother and I about a small article which stated that the body of a gas station attendant had been discovered with multiple stabs stuffed into the men's bathroom of the station. It was the station we always went to. The article said the motive appeared to be robbery. As all cash and coins were missing early in the morning, the total amount of money was probably not a lot. The article gave no hint as to what amount was taken, but either way, that didn't stop the killer. I've often wondered how I would have been affected at that young age if I had insisted on going to the bathroom at that station and had opened the door to discover the body of the murdered attendant.
Driving from North to South Texas, my work schedule dictated that I could only make the journey late at night. Much of the drive was on Route 281, and during these late hours it was a straightforward route. However, staying awake was a challenge, especially after a tiring day at work. I found myself making frequent stops at random gas stations for coffee just to keep myself going. On my third coffee break, feeling a bit sleepy and needing to refuel, I pulled into the first gas station I came across on the desolate side roads. I can't recall the exact brand, maybe a Sunoco or Shell. There was only one other car in the parking lot, and I parked next to one of the pumps before heading inside. The small shop had two people, the cashier and another guy pacing down the aisles. I went to the coffee maker, poured myself a cup, and that's when the pacing guy approached, warning me about the hot coffee in a poorly executed attempt at conversation. Uninterested, I didn't respond and proceeded to pay for my coffee and gas. As I was paying, the guy behind me complimented my top and inquired about my late-night destination. Annoyed, I firmly asked him to leave me alone, unsure if the cashier understood the situation. The man insisted I calm down and, without another word, I left the shop. By my car, preparing to fill up the tank, I heard the door open again. His footsteps stopped on the other side of the pumps, and I noticed him watching me eerily. Concerned, I contemplated grabbing my pepper spray from the center console. When he asked if I was alone, the situation intensified. I replied that my boyfriend was in the car, but he doubted it. I subtly grabbed my pepper spray, pretending to focus on pumping gas. The man inched closer, claiming he was just making conversation. Feeling threatened, I pointed the pepper spray at him, causing him to laugh and back away. As I went back inside for change, he lingered between the shop and me. I had to decide whether to confront him or get my change. Holding the pepper spray, I went for the change. Once safe, I told the cashier about my discomfort, but he seemed unaware. Upon leaving, I cautiously surveyed the parking lot. Not seeing the man, I stepped outside but stayed on the sidewalk, wary that he might be hiding. Eventually, a pickup truck pulled in, and I approached the driver asking for help. He checked behind my car and spotted the man, prompting him to flee into the darkness. The helpful stranger, with a thick southern accent, warned me to be careful. I hastily left the parking lot and completed the rest of my drive. That creepy man was undoubtedly waiting to strike as soon as I unlocked my car doors, making the experience truly unsettling. This occurred back in 2005. When I was 18, I lived in a very impoverished neighborhood called Uvalde, Texas, which is the kind you find scattered throughout rural Texas when you're not right outside of a city. The closest city to me was San Antonio, where I attended a local community college because that was all my parents could afford. Andrew, one of my best friends from high school, moved to San Antonio to attend San Antonio College. He lived in a small apartment a little outside of the city with a roommate, and his girlfriend would frequently stay with him because the city is only really an hour and a half away. I would visit him frequently, and one weekend he invited me to crash for the night. I accepted his invitation and, although it was a piece of crap, I drove there. I was on the road at like 3 p.m. on a Friday, and there was no traffic at all. I got to Andrew at a reasonable time. His girlfriend wouldn't be getting there until tomorrow. So tonight, we were going to go out. We stopped at a liquor store and we drank in his apartment for a while with his roommate. Then the three of us went to this dive bar that would kind of look the other way with fake IDs. That was basically our night. We got back to their apartment around 2 a.m. after getting food. I slept on the couch. The next day would have almost been the same thing, but Andrew and his girlfriend were having issues all day. And as the two of them got drunker as the night progressed, she started yelling at him in front of me. And it got really awkward and uncomfortable. I didn't really have much to drink that day because I was already iffy about staying the night with her. There I eventually decided I would just head back home. I said goodbye to everyone and started my journey home. It was very late at night. I want to guess midnight, maybe a little earlier. Route 90 was deserted at this time, so I would fly for my pickup standards, but suddenly the engine started sputtering. I felt my heart completely drop as I realized I forgot to fill up the tank. I slowed down, but it was too late. The engine cut. I pulled to the side of the road and tried starting it a few times, but it did no good. I got out my mobile phone, which was just as tacky as my vehicle, and attempted to obtain a signal, but I was unable to do so. I was forced to put on my hazards and wait for a good Samaritan to come by. You have no idea how long I sat on the side of the road before I saw headlights. As the automobile got closer, I waved my arms, but it just sped by, disregarding me. This happened again. After another 10 minutes or so, I was starting to feel hopeless, like maybe I should just sleep in my car and wait till sunrise to get help. So that's what I was going to do. I got inside my car, took the key out of the ignition to cut the battery, and just angled my seat back to go to sleep. I would hear the occasional car zooming pest like once every 10 minutes, but it didn't feel worth waving people down in the dark. It seemed sketchy for myself and to the people in the cars, but when I was starting to actually drift away to sleep, a car door closing from behind me woke me up. I looked in the rearview mirror and saw a car pulled up behind me with its headlights off. I turned around now to get a better look. There was some big pickup truck, but I couldn't see anyone inside of it, nor did I see anyone outside of it. Maybe someone pulled over to help. I got out of the car and said excuse me to no response. I walked closer to the truck just to confirm. No one was inside. Then I walked back to my car. This was weird. I looked towards the trees on the side of the road. Maybe someone was pissing in the woods. I went back inside of my car and locked the door. This was just too weird. Suddenly there was a tap at my window. I startled. And as I glanced down, I saw a guy smiling at me inside the vehicle. I didn't do anything, but he said, "Hey buddy, need a hand?" I remarked. "Hey, I ran out of gas," and I downed the window a little. The man said, "That's quite the predicament. Step out and give me a hand with this real quick." At first, I assumed he meant to assist me with a gas jug so I could fill up my tank or something, so I exited the truck and closed the door, expecting him to guide me to his truck. Instead, he stood there, grinning, staring down at me because he was much taller than I was. It took me a moment to realize what he meant. I was a destitute college student driving a stolen pickup vehicle, and I wasn't going to lose my phone or the little dollars I had. I ran for it in the direction of the trees. I'm small but fast. I turned around and saw he was chasing after me once I made it into the trees. I zigzagged all over the place until I seemed to lose him. Then I crouched behind a big tree to catch my breath. When I heard him approaching closer, I quieted my breath. I heard him say out loud, "I'll kill you." You piece of... I don't know if he was just saying it out loud, out of anger, or if he wanted me to hear it. But I was too scared to move even after I heard his footsteps move away. I didn't move. In fact, I stayed in this position the rest of the night, eventually laying behind this big tree up until dawn. I went back over to the highway to my truck, and the truck behind me was gone, but my truck's doors were both open. I found that my glove box had been gone through and completely emptied of anything somewhat valuable. My flannel hoodie was also taken, which had something in the pocket. I'm sure I finally managed to wave down a good Samaritan, and he gave me a ride to the closest gas station. I bought a fuel can, filled it with gas, and the man brought me back to my car, where I filled my tank, just enough to drive the truck to a gas station to fill up completely. Then I went straight home. This was a real-life learning experience for me, that there are bad people out there who will try to take advantage of you when you're in a vulnerable spot, but there are also good people like the man who helped.